This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the best way to make an amazing website. It's been a week since I switched to the iPhone 12 Pro after using the 11 Pro for over a year, and today I'm going to tell you every real-world difference I noticed, some that Apple advertised and I was expecting, and a bunch that for some reason they didn't, but were really nice, and even a few disappointments. There's even one improvement that blew my mind so much that if Apple didn't change anything but this, I would still upgrade in a heartbeat. And no, it's not the cameras or the new design. Let's skip the specs since you've heard them 100 times already and jump right in, starting with one headline grabbing downgrade, and that's the lack of a charging brick. The 11 Pro was the first iPhone to come with one, but it didn't need it. The battery life was amazing, but this year, unfortunately, it's noticeably worse, which I'll talk about in just a bit. Now, they did drop the price of their new 20-watt USB-C fast charger from $29 to $19, and I got a few to get the fastest charging speed, but when I tested it with the 12 Pro, it wouldn't charge any faster than 18 watts anyway. My 11 Pro Max, on the other hand, would charge at the full 20 watts. Now maybe it's just mine, or maybe only the Max models with the bigger batteries can make use of the fastest chargers. If you have older 18-watt chargers, just use one of those, and if you don't, buy an Anker fast charger instead. They are much smaller and they're just as fast. In fact, they're actually faster for MagSafe charging, and the 18-watt is only slightly slower than Apple's 20-watt. I'm working on an ultimate iPhone 12 charger comparison, and there's a few surprises, so make sure you're subscribed if you want to see it. As for the MagSafe charger, I was initially excited for it, but that's worn off. Now yes, it is slightly faster to connect than using a lightning cable, and it's always aligned perfectly, but it takes about twice as long to charge the phone from 0 to 100%. Now once we get some other MagSafe accessories, maybe car mounts and other things, I may start to get excited again. Now you may have noticed that I moved from an 11 Pro Max, and man do I love this size. In my iPhone 11 review, I said that the 5.8-inch Pro is too small, the 6.5-inch Max is too big, and 6.1 is the perfect size, but I didn't want the LCD or having dual cameras instead of 3 of them, and if they made the Pro 6.1 inches, I would switch. So did I miss the bigger screen? No, not really. After the first few hours, I got used to it, and when I go back to holding the Max, it is massive and way less comfortable even for my bigger hands. Now part of that is because of the old but new design. I do have a XS, and even though the 12 Pro has a bigger screen, it's the same width and only slightly taller due to the new slim bezels. So for those of you that have a smaller iPhone, size won't be an issue with this one. And I have to say that the square edges are much more secure in your hand. Now a few times this week, I did notice that the square edges dug into my hand if I use the phone for a long time. So if you text for hours, you might want to get a case. I'll go ahead and link a couple suggested ones down below. And no, I don't really suggest this one from Apple. Another thing is that the 12's new strong ceramic screen seems to scratch easier. I have been super careful, but I already have a few scratches, so you might want to use a screen protector. I'll link that, a few cases, and this tiny Anker 20-watt charger down in the video description. Now unfortunately, Apple pulled a Samsung and is now putting the best cameras in their largest phone, the 12 Pro Max. And of course, I'm gonna buy one and test it for you. Now I don't want to, but I might end up switching and dealing with the huge size if the camera difference is noticeable along with battery life. Now before I cover that, in the shockingly better 5G and LTE speeds, let me give a shout out to our sponsor, Squarespace. If you've been thinking about making your own website, Squarespace is seriously the best way to go. We built multiple websites, and you can too with literally no web making experience. You just choose a template, customize blocks of text and images, and easily move them around. It's incredibly simple, it's affordable, and ours have been running flawlessly for years now, bringing in new clients thanks to its built-in SEO tools. So whether you're making a website for a small business or for literally anything else, go to squarespace.com/maxtech for a free, no credit card required trial, and use our coupon code when you're ready to check out to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Now let's talk about battery life, and it has been disappointing. The 11 Pro's battery life must have been my favorite upgrade from the XS Max, and instead of needing to charge at 6 or 7 each evening, at bedtime I still had about 20% battery remaining. Well, all of that went down the drain, and now I'm right back to having to top off each day at around 6 o'clock. Now yes, this thing has a much smaller battery than the 11 Pro Max, and even smaller than the 11 Pro, even though it's bigger. It does have a more efficient 5nm processor, but at the same time, we have a larger display. Mr. Who's the Boss tested it and got 1 hour less battery life than the 11 Pro, but that was without 5G enabled. and when it's on, tests have shown that you'll lose about another hour of battery life, getting you back to iPhone XS levels. Now thankfully, a lot of people won't need to if they want to save battery life because the normal 4G LTE is wicked fast. I tested it in a snowstorm and the difference was insane. The 12 Pro got 32 download instead of 4, even though the 12 showed 1 less bar of reception, and going outside of my concrete office, I got 4 times faster download and twice the upload speed. And remember, this is only 4G. Now how is this possible? Well, since the iPhone 7, Apple started to switch to Intel modems, and as you can see, they're not only behind in CPUs. With the iPhone 12, we're finally back to Qualcomm modems thanks to 5G, and both the 12 and the 12 Pro use the X55, the very best one currently on the market. Speaking of 5G, here in Spokane, we only have the slowest, which is low band, but that's the case in most cities. Even still, it's noticeably faster than the 4G I get. During that snowstorm, the 12 Pro went from 22 download up to 45, and let's just say that over the last week, I have noticed a dramatic difference in both coverage and speeds. With the 11 Pro, I complained that even 720p video would buffer at times, but now most of the time I can actually stream 4K and I have reception in a few previous dead spots. And if you're somebody that tethers to their laptop like I do, the speed difference is huge thanks to the newer modem and 5 GHz tethering instead of 2.4 GHz, going from 3 megabit per second download in less than 1 upload all the way to 36 down and 18 up. Just make sure that maximized compatibility is turned off in your tethering settings. Let me just say that if Apple did nothing else to the 11 Pro but upgrade the modem and call it the 12, I would still upgrade in a heartbeat because the real world differences is that big for me. Now, if you want to know more about this, I'm working on a video testing the 5G and 4G differences all around town at different parts of the day, and this time without the snowstorm. So make sure to enable those notifications if you guys want to see that. Now, another big frustration was background apps. I'm a power user and the iPhone 11 Pro regularly closed large apps that I was using, especially if I open the camera app. I always envied the Androids with their 12 gigs of RAM where I could reopen apps from the day before and they were still saved. Thankfully, the 12 Pro has 6 gigs of RAM instead of the iPhone 11 Pro's 4 gigs, so I'm happy to let you know that I didn't notice this happen even once in the last week. Hopefully Apple will keep iOS 14 updates well optimized so it stays this way. Now let's touch on speakers. Apple didn't mention them, but there's definitely a noticeable difference. Take a listen for yourself. I found that the mids and bass are a little bit more rich, but would I notice that if I wasn't comparing them side by side? No. What I would notice though is the high frequencies, which are louder and more crisp. Because of this, the speakers peak 2 decibels louder, and I love that, at least most of the time. Most music and videos sound great, but every once in a while, certain songs and voices make it sound too sharp. With that said, I would gladly take the trade-off for better sounding, louder speakers 95% of the time. And finally, onto the cameras. Overall, it's a decent update, but I thought it would be bigger. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some instances where the difference is massive, but other times the 12 Pro is the same or maybe even worse. Now, if I covered all of these in this video, it would be more than twice as long, so if you want to see every little difference, click right over there to watch my ultimate camera comparison against the 11 Pro and even the XS Max. Click above if you guys want to subscribe so you guys don't miss out more videos like this one, and if you haven't seen it yet, check out Vadim's review as well. This has been Max, and I will see you in the next video.